I came to my garden, my sister, my bride. I gathered my mirth and with my spice. I ate my honeycomb with my honey, and I drank my wine with my milk. All of those, every bit of those, is symbolic in the Hebrew mind. From spices to honey to wine to milk. Milk would have stood for sustenance. Wine would have stood for joy. Honeycomb and honey are symbolic for celebration. You've got all these words here that have these double meanings. And here's what he it's over, and they're laying there, and he's going, it was as joyous as I thought it was going to be. It was sustaining as I thought it was going to be. Because he's like, I ate. And here's what he says. I'm full. And that's such a foreign message to our culture. Sex that's fulfilling. Sex that's fulfilling. Most sex is dry and it dies, so I've already tried to point out why I think that is. That's why we're so fascinated with technique. Let me tell you something. This cat is phenomenal with his words, and this woman is very responsive, and I have to imagine that their first night, neither one of them had very good technique. Huh? I don't know if you can recall, those of you who are married or those who have had sex, I don't know if you'll recall your first time. I don't know where you'd grade yourself out on that one. Most of us want a mulligan. Most men want a mulligan. And most women are like, that's it? That was it? Are you serious? So, I don't think they're satisfied, they're full. There's been some real intimate, very beautiful things here, but I don't think we're going to call them experts as far as technique goes now, are we? No. So apparently, once again, not about the technique, but rather about finding ourselves in the rhythm of how God commanded things to be. Now, I love this next line because this next line is God speaking into this thing. So here they've consummated the marriage. They're laying in the bed. It's been like a day and a half, apparently. And look at God. Eat, friends. Drink. And be drunk with love. This whole thing's been very pleasing to God. I mean, very pleasing to God. How pleasing? I mean, they're laying in bed going, oh, we're so full. And God's going, eat again. Eat again. This is my gift to you. This is my present to you. Drink again. I've already had a glass of wine. Get drunk. Drink a lot of wine. God doesn't really let you get drunk. This is dualistic in meaning, if you lost me there. God is pleased with this. Eat again, drink again, I think the NIV translates this, eat your fill, you lovers. This thing pleases God. It pleases him. Now here's what I say. You put Song of Solomon 4 on top of any romantic comedy or any porn site on the net. And I don't know a man or a woman who goes, nah, I'll take the romantic comedy, or nah, I'll take the porn site. I'll take the chat room. This is the ideal. This is what God created it to be. Dode. A friendship that moves into commitment, and a friendship that moves into commitment that moves into physical intimacy, where a woman feels safe and a man feels fulfilled. All right, but let's chat. I went to college in Abilene. I swear I don't even remember how it happened. But I got out there. I remember I got accepted before I even knew where it was, and so I took out the Texas map. I'm originally from the West Coast, and then when we moved, we were in the Bay Area. My dad was military, and they moved us to Galveston. And let me just say that the brochures of Galveston are a lot nicer than Galveston. And let me also say, just as a non-Texan who got here as fast as I could, that you don't have beaches here. You have sand and you have water. You don't have beaches. And don't email me if you're from Corpus. Just don't email me, all right? So we move here, and we get here and loved it. I ended up in Abilene. I mean, I looked at, where's Abilene? A1, oh no, and I go out there. And while I was out there, I had to take I think it's called fine arts class or something. And it was either pottery or drama or art, theater arts. And so I decided to take theater arts class, and got into theater arts class. And the dude was a weirdo hippie, and I should have loved him. I was from San Francisco, but there was another girl in there who was older. I was an older freshman. I was like a 20-year-old freshman, and she was like a 25, 26-year-old freshman, had a couple of kids, neither one from the same man, wasn't married still, always smelled like smoke. I loved her. And she reminded me of my roots. And we got along great. We're both highly sarcastic. Both had sarcasm as a primary love language. And so we just openly mocked everybody all the time. And it was great. We really, but her life was just a mess, man. It was just a bad, bad mess. And I just tried to, I didn't push it on her, but talked a lot about how Christ had changed my life. I hadn't been saved long and would share the gospel at times. We were at a Christian campus, which is just the worst possible place for people to get saved. And there's just so much overt religiosity in some of those places that it's very difficult. People get real hardened towards a lot of that stuff. But so we would hang out all the time. We both loved good music. And so a friend of mine was playing a True Love Waits rally in San Angelo. And so I invited Kim to come because I just wanted her to hear the music. And so she got in the car with us and went down to this deal. And so my buddy played and then was going to play the big concert afterwards. And so we stuck around through the message. And a very, very popular youth communicator at the beginning of his message threw a red rose out in the crowd. There's about 2,000 teenagers there, and he's like, I want everybody to smell the rose. So he starts talking about his, the message. He was like, well, God, true love waits, all right? That's what it was, that you wait. And I think we did a poor job of true love waits most of the time because we didn't unpack sex as a good thing, but a dangerous thing that needs to be waited on. And I think it's better to unpack it as a really, 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 really good thing when it's done correctly. I think that was the better way to package. I think we missed some things there. And then near the end of his sermon, he was like, where's my rose? And, it was in the real back, and they pushed it on up. And then he held it, and the stem was broken. There's like one little red thing left. I mean, that rose looked like it got ran over. It was just completely jacked to 1,000 pieces. And he ends his whole deal with, now, which one of you men, which one of you young women, which one of you would want this rose? It's been touched all over. It's been broken. All its petals are ripped off. Who wants this? Who wants this rose? Anybody want it? Dead silence. And I'm just sitting in the back with Kim going, please, God, kill this guy. Please kill him right on stage so I can look at her and go, see, grace, love, those things are legit. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not gracious or loving. All right, let him live. Just hurt him, all right? And, I mean, that's, here's his point. His point is, who wants a girl that's been passed around to 1,000 guys? That was his point. And several weeks later, at a bad spot, she had been hurt in a car accident. I was in the hospital. I was visiting her. And she just looked up at me and said, do you guys really think I'm like a dirty rose like that? I mean, does Jesus think, God think, he thinks I'm a dirty rose? Jesus deeply and desperately loves the broken rose with no petals left. Do you know that the scriptures say that this woman walked through the streets all night long? She found him in this religious bigot's house. Then she walks in, she fell at the feet of Jesus, and she was a prostitute in that city, and she just started sobbing and sobbing and sobbing at his feet. And the religious man thought to himself, if Jesus knew what kind of woman this is, there's no way Jesus would even let her touch his feet. And Jesus immediately looked at him and says, why do you say such things? Which is kind of spooky because he didn't say it, he just thought it. I love those moments where somebody's thinking something, Jesus goes, let me answer your question. Well, some of my favorite stuff in the Old Testament. Hey, let me talk to you here for a second. I heard what you were thinking. And then he picks up this woman's face, who almost refuses to look at him the whole time. He picks up this woman's face and says, your faith has healed you. Your sins are forgiven. Another story is a woman caught in prostitution. She is brought to the feet of Jesus and thrown down at the feet of Jesus, just naked. Can you imagine the shame in that? Law says she gets pelted with rocks until she dies. Jesus bends down. Nobody knows what's happening here. I think it's one of the coolest moments in the New Testament. He just bends down. He starts drawing in the dirt. I've asked the Lord to let me do that eventually. Like have somebody ask me a question, go, And then he goes, I tell you what, let's do it this way. Let the one of you with no guilt pelt her with the first rock. And then the woman, she just never looks up. She'll just never look up at him. And he picks her face up too and says, where are your condemners? Has no one condemned you? Neither do I then. Go and sin no more. And then there's this woman who goes out to get water in the middle of the day, which is his miserable time to get water. And Jesus is sitting there, and Jesus is a Jewish rabbi. He shouldn't have been talking to a Samaritan woman. And he doesn't have his cup, and so he asked to drink after her, which would have made him unclean in the Jews' eyes. And he goes, would you give me some water? And she's like, why would you, a Jewish rabbi, ask me for water? I mean, here's a woman that has to go out to get water in the middle of the day because she's viewed as basically, okay, let me tell you what kind of woman this is. At this moment in the story, she's exchanging sex for rent. That's who this woman is. And Jesus takes that cup and he puts it on his mouth and he drinks it. She's going, a Jewish rabbi asking me for water? And so Jesus is like, you knew who I was, you'd be asking me for water. I love it. Oh, so great. I mean, there's just such a greatness about him. Makes sense. And check my time. And then he just unpacks it for her. And you know what she tries to do? She immediately turns it into a religious issue. Well, our people say worship over there. Our people, you guys worship over there. I'm trying to find God this way. You're finding. He's like, whoa. This is no longer a matter of who goes where. Say, I'm going to give you a water that makes you never thirst again. And then he busts her. I mean, he straight up busts her in her sin. Go get your husband. I don't have a husband. Yeah, you're right, you don't. You've had a lot of men now, haven't you? But what's the end result? The end result is joy, isn't it? Doesn't she run into town? And where she had been so ashamed and so fearful, now she runs into town and goes, come meet this man. Jesus loves the broken rose. I hate the children's song, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed up in a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. Let me tell you why I hate that song. I really despise it. I despise it because what we teach in that song is that Zacchaeus simply overcharged the Jewish people for their taxes, and that's why they hate him. That's ignorant historically. The Roman army at that time was the most massive army the world had ever seen. It literally encompassed, their Roman rule encompassed from England to India, and they ruled violently. Had a massive army that was responsible for killing and raping and murdering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. In fact, there are historical accounts of Rome sacking a city and crucifying up to 40,000 men, women, and children along the roads leading up to that city so that you wouldn't dare think about revolting against them. Now, Zacchaeus, and a tax collector in the first century, would have been a man who purchased the right from Rome to raise taxes. Now, where do you think those taxes are going? To fund maybe the largest army the world's ever seen? People hated Zacchaeus and his friends because they raised funds to fund the army that was responsible for the murder and rape of 100,000 of their countrymen. Not because he overtaxed them by $20. So he climbs up into a tree to see Jesus, and I'll add, to not be seen by him. I mean, isn't that what he's trying to do? See from afar? He didn't push to the front. He went the opposite way. Let me just climb up high up where he won't see me. I'll look down. I'll check it out, but I won't get... What does Jesus do? Walk right up to the tree. Hey, come on. And then the end of the story is what? Today salvation has come to this house. Jesus loves the rose. So here's the deal I want to tell. This is a really beautiful ideal, but we live in a sinful, broken world, and most of us aren't here in chapter 4, are we? We've been wounded. We've been hurt. We're insecure. We have fears. We've already groped our wives. We've already been unresponsive to our husband. We've already given away our little gift on multiple occasions. This is why, if you've ever, I was always confused by church. I never understood what anybody was celebrating. What we're celebrating is that while we're at our worst, Jesus loved us. Have you ever tried to figure out why we raise our hands? Because I know that's goofy. Why people get real emotional when it comes to the thought of God, it's not because he cleaned us up. It's because while we were really dirty, he loved us. That's what made us change. What made me love Christ wasn't that all of a sudden I started figuring out how to do life. What made me love Christ is when I was at my worst, when the rose was broken and all the petals were gone and nobody could do anything with it, Christ went, I'll take that one. That's the one I'll take. That's the one I want. That one, it doesn't have any petals left. Oh, I'll put petals back on it. Give it to me. Well, there's no root system. Pa! Creator of all things. Give me that. Give me that. This is the gospel. This is the essence of the gospel. Look at me. Christians are not more moral than anyone else. They're not anybody, even a Christian who claims to be more moral than anybody else doesn't understand the essence of the gospel. The essence of the gospel and what we're celebrating, what this church is about, what we're all about, is not that we can, but that Christ did. And that's the big deal here. And that's why we can try this. That's why we can work at this. This is why we can humble ourselves before God and say, your way is better than ours. This is where we can line ourselves up against this. We can let this read us, not just read it. And we can go, we're falling short. We need Jesus. We're not good enough to pull this off. Intimacy is hard for us. We need Jesus. That's the good news of the gospel, that Jesus wants the dirty rose. And that in him, this is possible. Now, it has to be worked for and fought for, but it's possible. I love the gift of sex. I love my wife. But it's Jesus who makes all these things even a possibility. He and he alone reconciles what went so wrong in Genesis 3. And tonight, listen, I've got all these great words for you, but here's what I would say. If you don't know Jesus, but you learn how to, throw out these things to your wife, then sex is going to get better. It will. Like, can I tell you one of the things that always drove me crazy about churches? Like, people would say, if you don't love Jesus, you don't have a good marriage. But then I'd have all these people who were lost and had great marriages around me. They'd be like, that guy needs to get out. If you don't love Jesus, you're going to be miserable. And you just look around, the whole world's partying. You're like, I don't think you're right. That guy doesn't even have a shirt on anymore. This place is awesome, all right? I mean, you've got that claim that the whole world screams out is untrue. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. So sex can get better, but can it be all that it was ever created to be outside of him? Well, the answer to that is a resounding no, because there were some other pieces in here that aren't as easy to just duplicate. There's a connection of the soul. There's a connection of the emotion. There is a holy moment. These things we need Jesus for. So can you have great sex outside of Jesus? Heck yeah, you can. But can it be all that he designed it to be outside of him? The answer to that's no. The answer to that's no. And so here's what I hope. If you're married tonight, man, I hope the second you get to your house, your man's like, your hair is like like macaroni and cheese. I just want to eat it. I don't know how good you are. I don't know what kind of game you have. Some of you are poetic. Some of you are going to be like, your hair is like Emmett Smith in the 90s. Winning awards. All right, so ladies, be gracious to him. At least he swung the bat, all right? At least he tried. So, some of you are going to walk in, and I want that for you. I do. I want that for you. Some of you, I want you to come in here in the morning smiling, for those of you who are married. I do. I want that for you. I want that for you. But in the end, listen, I'm here because I think Jesus is better than everything, even than life. And that there's something really freeing about that. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to my message here is the gospel, not just sex. So great sex is, well, it's great. But to be able to enjoy that and worship the creator of it. Man, that's profound. That's a profound gift. Because I say you were created by God to worship. Huh? You ever watch grown men paint their bodies, go to a football game, scream for 22-year-old boys? That's weird, isn't it? Is that weird? Have you ever seen your husband get depressed because his team lost? Yeah, hey, buddy, you don't play. You don't own any stock. You not on the team. Let me tell you why you do that. You do that because you were created to worship. You ever wondered why women are so intrigued by the lives of others? Like why Us magazine even exists? Why People magazine even exists? You know why women are drawn to that? You know why? And this is such I just lament this for our country. You know why even CNN, Fox News, which should be legitimate news things, instead cover the fact that Britney Spears shaved her head? You know why we're so intoxicated with that stuff? Because we were created to live outside of ourselves and worship and exalt something outside of ourselves. And in the absence of doing what we were created to do, we'll fill that gap with really trivial, stupid stuff. So I'm trying to point that out to you tonight. And don't get me wrong, I'm a sports guy. I know as soon as I said that, you're like, great, an artist. No, I love sports. Love it. I support it. It affects me negatively. I mean, I get it. I understand it. But I'm just trying to point out and show you this is what's going on here. This is what's going on. So I want you to be able to have blissful, gentle, romantic, holy, amazing sex. But know who gave it to you and why he did. Otherwise, it's shallow. Yeah, you don't get the whole purpose of it. And what a waste that would be. Let me pray. Jesus, thank you on behalf of my past mistakes and my shortcomings, and that my song is not exactly like Solomon's. And I thank you for the men and women in here whose past is littered with failure and mistake. I praise you that there are regrets in the hearts of these men and women. And my prayer tonight is that we might lay them at the feet of the cross and be done with them once and for all. That you make all things new. That there is nothing in our past with more power than your cross. And that the message of the scriptures aren't that because we're so good you like us, but rather because Jesus died, you'll love us. Regardless of what's in the background, regardless of present reality, grace and mercy goes out to those who will humbly call out to you. So I thank you for such beautiful gifts. But I pray that those gifts point me to you. You are the treasure. So to steal from your story, I pray that we would sell all that we have and buy the field. Help us. I think these things are too big for us, so help us understand. Grab our hearts with them. It's for your beautiful name. Amen.